Hello, welcome to this video. Thank you so much for tuning in, sharing in this now moment with myself and with one another. If you haven't seen these videos before, welcome back if you have. My intention is unity and oneness. I wanted to talk a little bit about, I think I'm just gonna go into flow with the guides, the waveforms and dimensional energies that I am connected to and through, and just kind of share whatever messages might be fun or relevant for the collective based on what we might be experiencing or feeling right now. Um, and to do this, I drop into my heart, I allow my field to expand, and I basically open. You guys, this has shifted for me over the years. I used to have to, not have to, I felt called to rock. Sometimes I will. I used to move in circles. Do you guys remember that? Some of those videos I'm deleting, by the way. But I left them up for a long time because it really is, some people are at that stage right now where you're starting to want to move as you go into meditation, or you might start wanting to do make sounds. You might start wanting to make hand mudras while you are walking. These are all things just to be aware of because our body is an intelligent, it's intelligent. So it will start to work with us and lead the way if we allow it to. And I'm hearing just get out of our own way. We are in a massive ongoing upgrade, if you wish to call it that. And the least resistance we put up against whatever it is that we're resisting will help us adapt naturally and collectively to the frequencies and energies that are uplifting us. And so again, it can feel, wonky at times. It can feel as if we've lost our footing, or we're not sure where we belong. We might feel strange in our own body. And I'm getting goosebumps. So this is clearly a theme right now, maybe for somebody watching this or a lot of people in the collective. Sometimes we go through these processes so that we can clear out old stuck energy. And the mudras and the sounds and the movements help us do that. They help us move this stuck energy so that we can feel more at ease in our own bodies. And I'm already hearing people go, well, how is it going to help me do that? Well, I'm not going to go into all that. Maybe I will in flow, but on a basic view of that, movement allows flow. It's that simple. I'm trying to come back to keep it simple as my theme, but movement allows flow. And oftentimes we're rigid, which I've done a lot of videos about rigidity versus fluidity. It causes the energy to move around the stuck deposits of old patterns. And so this coagulation causes a reduction of energy flow, and it causes the senses to skip certain things that might be useful for us as an organism to understand our environment better. I'm in flow. And so what happens is our bodies then reorganize in order to not only stabilize, but balance out the imbalances. So we're walking around with these imbalances, and the body is essentially trying to give us guidance on what to eat, what not to eat, how to move, what to give, and this is through synchronicity, it's through feelings, it's through the desire to flow. And so for some people, it's running. Yet I'm being called to share that for other people, it's to slow down. So sometimes what we've been doing isn't working anymore. Maybe we've been running for years. And by the way, that is a play on words. What have we been running from? What have we been running towards? What programs have we been running? And this is not to downplay or to take away from how beautiful running as an exercise can be. However, if your body is sharing that it needs something different, but we keep doing the same things and it starts to break down, that's on us. And so that's kind of what I'm being shown, is that's kind of what's happening for a lot of people. In my case, it was my appendix, right? Or years ago when I first started this channel, it was the foods I was eating. And, I'd gone for years of eating foods that were probably heavily laden with parasites and heavy metals, and without doing what I needed to do in order to clear that out. So at one point, the body's like, all right, we're going to shut down, reorganize, and get you to really feel what you've been avoiding feeling. And that can be not only in the sense of, back pain or headaches or stomach issues, but it can also be emotional, right? Everything's connected. We have our layers, we have our physical body, our emotional body, our mental body, et cetera, et cetera. So part of what we're being called to do is to ask ourselves, where am I holding on to old patterns? And where is my body trying to balance out that maybe I haven't acknowledged before? It could be that you've had, toe pain for a really long time, yet you still keep putting on those running shoes. The body is maybe asking for you to go and do more still activities. Maybe it's somatic work, maybe, so on and so forth. So that's a big message that's coming through, because with everything going on in our environments, we're being called to be more aware. That's what ascension is. It's remembering, right? It's remembering what we've forgotten. And part of what we've forgotten is our body as an instrument or tool for creating reality. We're not just creating it from our thoughts. We are creating it from our words, our deeds, our actions, our vibration that we are holding as a piece of the puzzle that is creating a pattern, that is creating the puzzle or the architecture in which we are walking through reality. So we're either shaping it in fluidity and resonance or coherence, or we're shaping it in continued distortions. And so we've got a little mix of all of that, right? And so the more of us that can get in tune with what we're feeling, with what we're thinking, with what our body is trying to communicate with us, the easier it will be to access the things that we're asking for. And that's not the only reason we want to do it. The easier it will be to create the reality and to distribute the stored energy that is not being accessed right now, because our body, A, doesn't know it's there, or B, we're holding on to certain things, which is causing the body to work harder than it needs to, which causes us to feel more tired, downtrodden. Again, I'm seeing patterns that keep resourcing. It's like a wheel, right? We feel down, so we eat more sugar. We eat more sugar and we store more emotions. And then we have those emotions that are so on and so forth. But it's bigger than all of that, right? So seeing our body as a resource and allowing the fuel to fuel the fire, PHIRE, of our creation. So, yeah, so that was one of the messages that's coming through. What else? I'm just gonna drop into flow. I'm already in flow, but we'll go into a little bit more of a flow space. And so I'm being shown, so funny, my eyes are going to Life Energy, a book that I have in my little mini library. Okay. So we are honing in on the body right now as a transducer. For as you calibrate your senses and your frequency, you are then able to transduce and to recompose the elements that have left deposits, let's say, in your fabric of your living, vibratory, walking, singing, sounding bowl. So they're playing like it's a sound bowl. We're making a resonant, a vibration. As we walk through our day, we're creating a sound. And so that which has been stored within the skin suit technology that each of you are housing, your temple, your house, or the body that you are temporarily housed within, creates a frequency or a sound we invite you to feel within so that you can clear out the disruptive patterns that are not allowing you to hear the sounds of your own heartbeat, that are not allowing you to hear the sounds of your own frequency, that are not allowing you necessarily, or shall we say, that you are not allowing yourself to see. For within this new patterning, within this new framework of reality that each of us has now tapped into and is accessing, some willingly, some unknowingly, ishukue imakai ish ik iwaha inikia. We are being invited to play into this temporal programming for a moment and initiate the activation. Initiate and press the go button on the surge of fluctuation and frequency that is seeking to blend and merge with you. Incompatibility. Moving through and breaking out the distorted incompatible frequencies that have been locked into the cellular matrix of the human template. This was not the original blueprint, so we are inviting you to come back to the original blueprint and find your own fingerprint, your own individual and unique substance, if you will, that which you are created through substance that is substantial in this new reality weaving that we are all I'm hearing procreating together. Deosh ikwaha nini shiki. We invite you to get out of your heads and to allow yourself to unzip, unlace, if you will, and see within the beautiful combinations that are now occurring, the chemical patterning that is rewiring, exchanging, and opening within your own template. For within this template are beautiful nodes and modes of transportation. You can be transported from one moment to the next, from one place to another, merely by you allowing you to feel into the motherboard, your own inner fire, PHIRE, your own inner human pocket, if you will. That which you have held within your pocket the whole time is now tickling you, is now signaling you, is now reminding you of what you've already had access to this whole time. And so as you do this, we invite you to move across the dimensions of time, play on words. We invite you to move across what you refer to as time and to cross wire, if you will, or diagonalize, or to draw together different frameworks at different moments in time that you have access to now. For many of you are remembering a moment in time that you once had access to. And because there is no time, you have access to this now. Yet not all of the moments in times were pivotal. Meaning, not all moments in time are pivotal for your own lifetime in this now moment. Much of what you have already accessed is accessible through your own architecture, meaning what you have learned, what you have grown from, what you have integrated is part of what you have access to. So we invite you not to dive back again, and again into a looping mechanism into which you must stir up the old, I'm hearing echo of the ego or echoes of what was lost or what you feel as if you must reconstruct in order to recognize who you are now. That's all play on words. We invite you to play with the recursive frequencies without rehashing, play on words, like I'm seeing hashtag and I'm seeing recursive waves, I'm seeing cursive as in font, and old curses, if you will. We invite you to let go of those patterns that were causing distortions or that were causing frequencies to distort around them. And as you allow yourself to move out into a broader band perspective, you begin to recognize that those energies that you once thought you must redirect your attention to no longer need that attention. Or you may feel called to look in another direction instead of forcing yourself to go back down into the frequent recurrence, if you will, of old patterns, and feel into this now current of currency that, yes, may be attributed or may be part of a tributary of another past frequency or timeline. Yet if you can allow these old memories that may be coming up as they may be perceived as attached to that particular dimensional timeline or overlay, we would invite you to view, feel, and recognize these with non-attachment. You may feel the pull, you may feel the call, yet at the same time, you are not that which you were the first time you experienced this pull or call. You are a new and improved version of you. So you guys follow what I'm putting down here? Basically, I'm being shown that, to simplify it, there are a lot of people who are going to start to remember past lives, which from what I was just describing are not past. Oh, I'm being called to draw this out. Okay. The irony is I already have this drawn out from what I drew the other day. So let's say that these are your, okay, so let me play with that a little bit. Let's see if I can get this right. Let's say this is the current you, all right? And these are the past versions of you, which is not necessarily that they've happened. So what I'm hearing is certain things are being triggered right now because of these lines of recursion. Let's play with that a little bit, because that's been coming up a lot in my channeling. Okay, so the etymology of recursion is running backward. Ooh, I can see this as a big play on words. Ooh, so let's play with this. So running backwards, return or backward movement, a running backward or return. So we'll come back to that just a minute. Ooh, I already forgot what I said. Something about recursion. So the geometries or the biometrics, okay, the recursion biometrics are restacking, meaning they are reordering themselves because of your current trajectory that is also in a state, if you will, of reorganization. And so therefore the biometrics that we each reference are also restacking their measures. This has to do with music, how far apart something is, how big something is. So when you measure something, it's like when you measure an ingredient for a recipe, right? But this has to do with sound, I think, or music. And so the template, the body, the template of reality, all of it is moving within this new pattern of circumferometry. Okay, well, that's a play on words too, because it's probably not even a real word. but it's talking about surrounding or lying on the outskirts. So closely encircling, encompassing, surrounding, close, at or within a short distance in space or time, or having elements near each other. So what I'm being shown is these are getting closer together, right? But at the same time, we're expanding. So it's almost like I'm being shown like these energies dissolving and being procured. I should just go back into flow. All right, let me just go back into flow. Then we'll keep it simple. So the set or the measurements within which the human has been set within, I'm hearing ready, set, go, is getting ready to be redistributed. Now, since time is not necessarily organized in the patterns that it once was, we have already repatterned this in the future version that is us now from one perspective, but we are playing with this. So follow along if you will, or jump ahead, but we are just seeking to grease the wheels right now and to play with a stronger vocabulary than might be available to me. So as we move within this new game board, if you will, this new frequency, we access a deeper space, a deeper point in space. I'm being shown the circle again. And the radius has now expanded, the radii, play on words. And I'm also hearing the radiant I that I am, all that I am, and so on and so forth. And so we swing a scale. We swing into a different scale of harmonics, architecture, and energetic components that create our harmonics and architecture in conducivity, play on words, in conductivity, conducive with the new arrangements and vocabulary of the structure of reality. So we are co-creating and assembling. I'm hearing an assemblage point. Isn't that like, I just read a little bit of this again, assemblage point. Isn't that Don Juan Carlos Castaneda? We'll come back to that. And so the information that was stored within our destination becomes accessible. So let us play with this for a moment. That which you once were destined to become, you all are already now. Therefore, what you are becoming becomes more aware of you. And from within this glue, within this new architecture, within this new framework, we access more of you. And so, for instance, I'm being shown these different places and spaces, like they're drawing in, they're coming together. So it's like, yes, we're expanding, but as we expand, it's like we're getting farther away from what we once were, but that's not real. So we're also taking with us everything that we are. So let's say you've had 5 lifetimes and in these different lifetimes or patterns, you went through some things that were perceived as negative. Let's call it trauma. Well, that trauma, what they're showing me is shadow boxing. Like, so you might have been fighting with yourself about this. We carried this karmic trauma from my past, and I've had people say, well, I probably can't do this because I hold too much karma. Or the belief patterns around karma, or the ancestral lineage that maybe we agreed to birth through our own bodies or hold as a birthed human body, we hold or carry with us, my crown is, those ancestral lines. Okay, I'm being shown, these are the lines, right? So we have this line, this line, this line, and these are all versions of us or our ancestors. And those patterns have been repeating themselves. And so cellularly, a lot of people think that they've had to like hang on to that. What they're showing me is we're getting farther away from that. Yet at the same time, you might have a memory of it right now. And when you access, let's say, this memory, and I'm being called to give it for instance. So when I first started going through my own remembering of past lives, um, it all happened within about a year. Boom, 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 boom. From going into meditation, also my dreams. I dreamed about children that I'd had, that I'd never let go of because I was in Africa and they died of malaria and I couldn't save them. I dreamed about Atlantis. I dreamed about, or tidal waves, right? For years, I had dreams about. I dreamed about going through portals and not being able to get back. I had visions of being part of the group that terraformed Mars. I know. On and on and on and on. I had visions of jellyfish beings that I was part of a collection of in another dimension, not under the ocean. I had visions of being under the ocean and planting crystals underneath the ocean, the floors of the ocean beds. I had visions of being held and encapsulated within inside crystalline caverns of light. All of these things. And it was emotional. And I didn't always know why I was having these visions or these dreams. Sometimes it was helpful for other people to tell me their interpretation of what I was seeing or feeling, like my children. And so when these things came up for me, at the time I would just bawl, I would cry, I would feel not in my body. Yet now I'm recognizing what that did is it helped me to clear out those not only chemical, but I'm hearing cumulative, energetic, I had to look it up. I've used it a lot. I've used circumferometry before and biometrics and recursion and all that, but I forget. So basically we're clearing out these cumulative quandaries, and this is a play on words. And so quandary is a state of perplexity, uncertainty. Okay, but there's more. I was trying to look up etymology, but it looked up meaning. So the attachments to those feelings and emotions, or so part of us is being called to feel these emotions, and yet can we do that with non-attachment? Because I am not living in Africa right now with children, right? And I am also not on Mars. And I am also connected to, let's say, Andromeda, right? And Sirius, but I'm not there right now either. I'm in a physical form. Yet all of these connections, let's say Africa, Sirius, Andromeda, lifetime is, whatever it might be. And whatever these, so can we allow those memories that are part of our own architecture or design or schematic of experiences that we've had, because it's from another perspective parallel. So something about what's happening now is triggering all of those to come back into, I'm hearing equilateral dimensional exchange, so that we can exchange with them and grow from them now and utilize that stored information. So sometimes it's going to come with distortion. Sometimes it's going to come with emotional discharge is what I'm hearing. So it's or charge and vice versa. So we might feel like we have to sigh a lot because we're clearing out that from the field, not only through the collective, but our own personal timelines. And I'm being called to not even use the word timelines, because but it is lines, lineage, right? But it isn't just our connection to our ancestors. It's physical or non-physical lifetimes that we are in the process of having and experiencing. And those points in space and time, beyond space and time, are opening up to be received and to be integrated. So we can remember some of our gifts. We can feel more of our emotions. We can heal old wounds. Because sometimes what I'm being shown is there's a lot of people that have the same wounds over and over and over again. So let's say they got stabbed in the heart from a spear back when they were, part of, I don't know, a tribe of spear warriors. And then the next lifetime, they got stabbed in the heart by a sword as a Scottish Highlander. Then in this lifetime, they're having heart issues that can't quite be explained. I mean, this is just an example. Some people come in with birthmarks. This is, by the way, I'm not channeling this right now. This is information. I think I read it from Many Lives, Many Masters. And I think that was something that came up in one of the, it's a good book, by the way, if you haven't. And they're calling me to use that as an example. So let's say somebody was stabbed in the neck, and now they have a birthmark on or their shoulder, and it's like a carryover. It's an imprint. Ooh, I'm getting goosebumps. So these imprints, oftentimes we've not been able to process them, or we've collected the trauma, but we haven't necessarily remembered the gifts that came through those traumas. And so I keep hearing the word reorganizing. So this is all kind of reorganizing itself to repattern itself so that we can use those resources more abundantly and not be pulled down by the weight of them. If we can allow, also I'm hearing non-attachment means a lot more than that. So this also has to do with ego. So we're going to have moments where we feel, I was a queen during the days of Egypt. Some of those things that people are going to be remembering are actually connected to a collective memory. That's another video entirely, but it's kind of not, because we might be actually pulling from that as well. Because remember, we're all part of the field. So if we have a huge collective memory that's being cleared, let's play and say these are collective memories. So now I was alive, let's say during this particular period of time in Africa. So I'm closing out and recognizing the connection to my children, who I was at that time. I was a shaman who was seen as a witch. And so now I'm clearing out that trauma, right? And I'm clearing out the trauma of not being able to let go of my children who I couldn't save, blah, blah, blah. Not blah, blah, blah. That's important. Just ignore my mess behind there. I'm in the process of organizing things. This is also collective. So now we have that timeline. And now we have the Scottish, we have the Inquisition timeline, and we have this. So this is happening as above, so below, as within, so without. So it's not only happening on a personal level, it's happening on a collective basis. It's been happening. But for whatever reason right now, because of the level of awakening that we've all kind of begun to remember and access, that stored energy that might have been depleting our energy can actually be integrated, cleared out, and now the gifts that we've been hiding from, or what I'm being shown is that we're hidden in these pockets of distortion, can now open and reveal themselves. Whereas before we were in resistance to them, or we were working around them because we weren't ready to look at that yet. And some people will never be ready. That's a whole other can of worms. So within this field that we are all processing, the processes will become clearer and more direct if we can allow what's unfolding to present itself in a non-hierarchical way. So this goes back to the ego. There's going to be some people that misinterpret what they're remembering. So some of the memories are ours personally, and some are us tapping into a collective memory because the energy was so big, we were all part of it. Why do you think so many people, oh, and I'm also seeing a reference to like beings that we think are physical. Part of the reason many people say I was this person is because there were multiple realities where that person existed. Not only that, sometimes it wasn't really a person, it was an energetic representation that people are interpreting as a person. And so when they connect into that collective frequency, they believe I am that, which they are. We are, I am that. Yet it doesn't necessarily mean that we had those life experiences, that we were, let's say, Jesus or Buddha or whatever it is. We might be connecting into that collective frequency of Jesus or Buddha, okay? Or I'm being shown to go a little deeper. I'm getting goosebumps. So for those of you who are mediums or when you channel, I'll give a for instance, I tune into people who have passed on. That doesn't mean, I can feel their feelings sometimes and their emotions, or I can see what their life was like. But I'm not going to misinterpret that as now that's me. I am that person. It's like a merge happens. And that merge, or someone who's a trance channeler, for example, I don't trance channel, but I'll use Bashar as an example. If you've never checked out his work, he's pretty fun to listen to. Daryl Ankh, not sure if I'm saying that right, Anka, as a for instance, or Lee Carroll, who channels Cryon. They're one and the same, kind of, right? But we're being shown is certain people channel certain entities. That doesn't mean that's who they lived that life. So we're being called in some cases to differentiate that and not get pulled into hierarchy, because that leads us back into ego, which might actually be something that we experience because that's something we have to clear, the shadow of the ego. And I'm being called to speak on that briefly. The ego is not bad, right? It is not bad, but there is this shadow of the ego, meaning people sometimes will give energy to a belief around a hierarchy, which builds the ego up more than it does the balance and the I'm hearing deference, or anyways, I hope that makes sense. Okay. So there are people who are looking to feel special, and they're going to feel this energy and think, well, I'm special because I was that person. But in actuality, they're feeling into that field that we all have connection to. So some of it is about us differentiating between these energies so we can have, so we can see through distorted patterns. Because what I'm being shown is that's part of the reason we're in the reality that we're in. Kings and queens believe that they came from this lineage, therefore they must be in charge, whatever that might be. And by the way, I'm not alluding to any connections that you might be making with those words as far as literal. But let's look at all of the years of monarchies, and even looking at, I could go on and on. We feed that egoic energy, give our power away, and then wonder why that structure doesn't support us. But we're being called not to, that's a whole other video. We're being called to observe. We're being called to, again, not attach to it. And when we do that, we pull our energy back in and restore the energy that we've been giving away. I'm hearing recursion, and we'll go back to that in just a moment. So going back to quandary, this shows us when. We're going back to when these happened in these points and spaces in time. We're merging them and we're allowing ourselves to essentially reconstruct from a more balanced, less egoic, less imbalanced, less distorted perspective or view, providing we can channel that through our state of coherence. So again, people are going to get sucked into this if they're not doing the work, which really just means coherence, resonance, finding that sound and that song, allowing the emotions, connecting with the earth, clearing out those distortions from the body, and not getting pulled into the story necessarily. Sometimes it's fun to get pulled into the story. Sometimes we need to in order to process the information. But what I'm being shown is it's more about feeling through the body right now and connecting to that experience so that we can see it from this perspective now of what we're holding. And we can look back at that moment and say, wow, okay, I integrate that. That is part of me, but is not who I am. That is part of the I am. And we do that from that awareness, if that makes sense. So I think I'm going to end on that note because I could keep going. I might finish with a little bit more flow and then we'll end. It's a long video. And so as we do this, as we allow what has been scattered across moments in time, we reflect back to ourselves what these moments of time have created. And we begin to see the nonlinear in the we as people, as humans. We begin to see the energy and the weave in the pattern. And we begin to dispel the spell that we have cast upon ourselves, or that we have been subject to, or that we have subjected ourselves or another to, plain words, and so on and so forth. And as we allow ourselves to see through this illusion that we have all and all are co-creating and living in together, we begin to create a new geometry, a new geometric grid and display pattern that allows us to see beyond the display. And it allows us to display more of our true colors. We begin to see the rainbow that we are or that we have access to, and we feel into this beautiful symbol. I'm seeing the rainbow. We see through the lines, if you will, of separation, distraction, and distortion, and compartmentalization. And we begin to step forward from a bigger, more vivid presentation of our human template. And because of this, it empowers not only ourselves, one another, but it empowers the new grid of our co-creative reality. So I'm going to end on that note. Thank you so much for tuning in, you guys. Thank you for sharing and liking these videos. And to be continued until next time. Namaste.